We all know that Deion Sanders returned to college football, but what does it mean for the Big 12 and what does it mean for the sport? Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I'm your host, Kevin Borba. Joining me today, Petey Pablo, apparently. Pete Sousa, the man, the myth, the legend. He's over there at ESPN and, of course, Inside the 12, covering all things Big 12. Over here at Locked On Buffs, we got you covered every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. So make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. Pete, I appreciate you hopping on. I made an appearance on your show probably about an hour-ish before Deion Sanders, I think, shook the college football world, right? It was everyone wanted to know, why is he having a meeting with his health or his doctors, excuse me. Why is he doing this? Is he stepping away from football? And lo and behold, he announces that he has cancer or had cancer and is now cancer-free. First of all, give me your immediate reaction when you heard that and talk to me about what this means for Colorado and the sport.
Well, my immediate disappointment comes to myself. Well, I have Petey Pablo there still. I actually did an interview with a news station in Oklahoma City 2 days ago, and I left this crap up there, and they didn't even take it off. So I was like, oh, my gosh, like there's Petey Pablo again. But, no, man, you and I talked Monday morning, and it was sort of like, it was a little dark cloud that was over the whole thing. As somebody who, I call games, Big 12 football, basketball, I, host that show Inside the 12, and Prime is a huge part of the Big 12 and the juggernaut that it has become, right? Like from Brett Yormark all the way down, just the conference itself, and thanks to guys like Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders and Deion, right? And even you don't have to look too far. Or I guess you do from Colorado, but what Texas Tech is doing, right? Like there's like, and all the quarterbacks in the Big 12, like there's a ton of excitement around this conference this year. It should be really good, and there should be stars still with Shedeur and Travis leaving. But guys like that, Shedeur and Travis and Coach Prime, they make this conference, and even though those guys are gone, they did, and their legacy does, culturally relevant. And that's something that I know Brett Yormark loves, and that leads to success financially and ultimately for the Big 12 overall. And the fact that Deion Sanders, I love how you have me on to give context to this stuff because I'm like the old guy, which is my favorite, But last year we got to talk about Travis Hunter and if we'd ever seen any two-way guys like that, and we got to look back at Charles Woodson and stuff. And with Coach Prime, he's really important to me because he's been in my life since I'm a little kid. I was a college football player. I grew up in Philly. Football was my whole life. And, he was Prime before he was Prime, right? Like when he was at Florida State, you couldn't take your eyes off him. When he was at the Falcons, same deal. Dual sport athlete, and he was a very good baseball player. Probably could have been an everyday player if he chose to be. Best cornerback maybe we've ever seen in the NFL as a return guy. And then he goes and kicks butt on television, right? NFL Network, amazing analyst. He's still in our life. And then he kind of, from overall public view, like sort of disappears because now he's dug in as a coach with his kids in North Texas. And then we get the reemergence, right, at Jackson State. We were all just loving it. And now with Colorado, and the guy is important to the Big 12, like I mentioned, culturally and also football-wise. Let's not forget he's actually answered the bell and been a great coach wherever he's gone. I mean, he has. You can complain about some stuff, but overall, he's been a real success as a head coach. And, he's flirting with the big NFL job last year. Like, that was no joke. But so he's so important for the Big 12. But, dude, and let me make my opening statement here a little longer. What he did for all of us, like for humanity on Monday. So here we got probably the coolest dude, definitely in college football, and one of the coolest dudes I've ever had like around him in my life. I put him up there with like icons like, he's like Eddie Murphy was like just the funniest, like he was the funniest, coolest dude in the world. Coach Prime has captured that and has taken it out because Eddie Murphy was only that cool for a finite amount of time. Coach Prime just remains so cool, right? And for him to be vulnerable like he was, right? A guy with that much, pardon my old school expression, but swag, which is like totally gone now, but a guy with that much swag, right? He's so smooth. To be talking about how he had his whole bladder removed and he's got to use Depends, how he depends on Depends. Like, for a dude of that ilk to say stuff, like, I'm like, dude, this guy just keeps getting cooler. So overall, to answer your question, that was a very long answer, but like, yeah, the Big 12 needs Deion Sanders. And the fact that he is back this year. And it also speaks to one other thing football-wise. You know, there was some crappy scuttlebutt, not produced by you or I, that, oh, maybe this is an opportunity now, a health issue. He can kind of exit stage left. He doesn't have his kids. There's question marks about this team this year. I think it speaks to actually how good Colorado can be, the fact that he's coming back under these circumstances. You know, he wants to coach. He is the real deal, dude.
Yeah, and I think to go back to the scuttlebutt you mentioned, I think it was just like this era of people like wanting to be first or like wanting to craft a rumor. And so you start seeing all these like, oh, he's going to retire post or he's going to do this. And it's like, I haven't been getting that indication, but obviously, and I'm sure you weren't either. I think I thought it was going to be about his normal health issues, I guess, where it's like the tumors that he's had in his legs, that he's had removed and stuff like that. I wasn't expecting cancer by any means. And so I see all those, and then that's when it starts to like hit you. You're like, oh, what if he does leave, right? The season starts in a month. Like, what does Colorado do? The transfer portal would open. Like, it would be chaos. But obviously, he decides to stick around. And so Deion Sanders, to me, staying one, the Big 12 needs a big brand, right? I think that's the way it takes the next step, right? As a conference, they need someone to emerge as a big brand. And I think Colorado and Deion Sanders, one, they have a really good opportunity to do so, but they have the opportunity to be the biggest brand. Even if they were a perennial playoff contender every year, there's not a school in college football that can outshine Deion Sanders' fame. Like, that's just not going to happen, right? Even when Nick Saban was in college football, people were still they still had game day and big noon kickoff in Boulder, Colorado for a team that ended up going 4-8, right? Like, they want Deion Sanders to be good. The TV people want Deion Sanders to be good, and then him returning to Colorado, I think, and you kind of hit on this already too, it kind of shuts down those rumors, right? The entire Deion Sanders era, people asked me, you, everyone associated with the Big 12 or Colorado, okay, when his kids leave though, he's done, right? Like, that has been the question. And it's like, I think he's showing that, one, he said this multiple times, he has a life outside of his kids, and two, he enjoys coaching. And so I think it shows that he's staying true to his word, and not that he needs to prove anything to us, but I thought that was really cool as well.
You know, and I think it shows too, like, they're legit building something powerful there. You know, you and I have talked about it, and being at media days, I heard him say, we got a better team. We don't have the stars, but we got a better team. Like, and I think that's legit from the coaching staff all the way down to Rob Livingston, to Pat Shurmur, to the positional coaches, and to, you know, this has been going on for 3+ years now, I guess, or maybe I'm a little off with my math, but like, Colorado becoming an attractive college football destination for 4 or 5-star recruits. It's not like, okay, it's a fire drill. Let's get ready for Coach Prime's first season. You know what I mean? With a bunch of transfers. And you remember that first year was like 70 different, you know. Now you got a team that you're building. Sure, you get the transfers and the new incoming guys, but like, they're building a strong team there. Like, I think the offensive line will be better this year than it was last year. I think it'll just keep getting better. The infrastructure of position groups that matter, right? Like, you look at like Xavier Hill, like a guy like that coming to play at Colorado. You know, like, there's just so many cool things happening, and it's an attractive place for players to go, but it's been attractive for a few years now. So the foundation is more than there. And I think Colorado could really surprise people this year with how good they are, because we're expecting this drop-off. And I don't know that that's exactly what's going to happen.
Okay, I like to hear that. Let's hold on to that thought, because we're going to dive into that after a quick break. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at DripDrop. If you're trying to stay on top of your routine, whether that's workouts, long days on campus, or staying focused through back-to-back classes, hydration is where it all starts, and that's where DripDrop comes in. DripDrop is a doctor-developed and scientifically proven for fast hydration. It uses the perfect balance of sodium electrolytes and glucose to help your body absorb fluids quickly, delivering 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of your leading sports drink. So, Right now, DripDrop is offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first order. Just head to DripDrop.com and use promo code LockedOnCollege. That's DripDrop.com, promo code LockedOnCollege for 20% off, Stock up now before the heat hits hard. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, so make sure to like, subscribe, follow, all that jazz so you don't miss out, because college football's coming. We're less than a month away from college football, Pete, and I think that's exciting. But until then, we have to talk preseason rankings because that's all we could go off of. And so our good friend over at Locked On College Football, Spencer McLaughlin, I'm not sure if you're familiar.
I know Spencer, yeah. I know.
He's semi-popular over here at Locked On Buffs Country, depending on the day. And this day, when he released this, he was not very popular. So he released his Big 12 preseason rankings, and this is where he had Colorado. I'll throw it up on the screen and read it to those listening. So he has Texas Tech 1, Arizona State 2, Kansas State 3, Iowa State 4, Baylor 5, Utah 6, TCU 7, Houston 8, Kansas 9, BYU 10. This was obviously before the Red Slough situation. Colorado 11, Cincinnati 12, OK State 13, Arizona, West Virginia, UCF rounding out the rear. Pete, you said you're high on Colorado. So you see this list, and Spencer clearly has them leaning more towards last place than he does towards Big 12 title contention. Where would you put Colorado and why?
Well, this ranking right here, I never destroy people's rankings because it really is all subjective.
I love it, though.
Yeah, I love it too. But I think because stuff goes sideways. I mean, we don't have a Big 12 preseason poll this year because Brett Yormark and the powers that be inside the Big 12 don't want a situation where an Arizona State is ranked so low preseason that they have to kind of climb out of that in the eyes of voters, right? And that can screw you up with the playoff. So I love the elimination of that for the Big 12. And Colorado really is a team, their over-under is 6.5, the Vegas over-under, which I think is low. I love their over. And I think that we're missing something that is a real opportunity for Colorado. They very likely could be 4-0 going into that game against BYU. I mean, you got Georgia Tech, you got Delaware, you have who else? Houston and Wyoming. Those are all winnable games, right? So, I mean, you're 4-0 going into BYU. So now your new quarterback, whoever that is, right? I would imagine it's going to be Caden Salter. But whoever it is going to have confidence, right? Is going to be playing with that ball bouncing your way mentality. So for Colorado to surprise people, right? Especially our boy Spencer, who made those for Colorado to knock him on his butt. I think that an early start is huge for this program. And, we saw, and I think what will be interesting this year is if you get that early start, that early jump, like they did in Coach Prime's first year, right? I think you may have a better a way to navigate and to sustain that success. Because remember now, once they got into the Big 12 and, it was rough for Colorado, right? Well, after they began so hot, right? And was it still the Pac-12 when Coach?
That was their last Pac-12 year, yeah.
Yeah. So, I feel like they'll do a better job if they get off to a hot start of sustaining the success. And starting off hot is huge for this team. I really, really believe that. That's going to mean everything. I do believe that.
Yeah, and I think the thing to look out for Colorado, like you said, the hot start, it's all about
slip up. You can't slip up against Houston or Wyoming. You can't.
Right.
Those are games you kind of have to win, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think momentum's probably the biggest metric in sports that we can't measure, right? It's one of those things where it doesn't show up in analytics. It's just sort of there, right? Like if your quarterback throws back-to-back interceptions, it's okay, well, analytically it says we should go for it on third or on fourth down here, but mentally our quarterback is shot over here and he's scared to throw anything beyond 5 yards, right? So momentum, confidence is a huge measure. And I think once Colorado in 2023, the Pac-12 year that you're mentioning, once they lost that confidence, you could tell, right? It was as soon as something would go wrong, the team would collapse. And last year, they were more resilient. They won close games. They beat UCF. They could have lost that UCF game early, right? Shador Sanders throws a pick, I think, on his first throw. And then there was just certain moments that, the Baylor game. I was just going to bring that up where that goes to overtime. And I don't think Colorado survives an overtime game in years past. So it's all about building that momentum and sustaining it. And I think with this group of coaches, which I want to get your opinion on his newest hire real quick here. I think they have that mentality, right? I think they were missing that mentality in the first year, but I think they understand that now. I think they're all about mental toughness. They do military workouts in the off season with Navy SEALs and stuff. It seems very intense. I would never want to do it. So that's as close as I'd get to joining the military, is watching them do military workouts, because good Lord. But they build that mentality in the off season. So that way during the season, when they're down 14 points against X team here or whatever, they could come back from that. And then the coach we got to talk about, it just happened yesterday. Man by the name of Byron Leftwich. He's joining the staff. His role is still unclear. Super Bowl winning quarterback, or at least he's a backup on the Steelers Super Bowl team, and then was the OC for the Bucs. Tell me about how you think that could help a quarterback, because I believe you slung the pigskin around back in your day. Did you not, Pete?
Me? No, I was a defensive end. I was much bigger, Kev. Don't worry about it.
You were chasing the guy.
I was chasing the guy. I was much bigger at that point in time. I'm never smart enough to be a quarterback. Let's get that out of the way right away. Byron Leftwich is another addition to that staff. And we know Coach Prime was trying to get – he was literally publicly shaming him to join the staff at media days, which was another awesome thing. I think it just lends more. You've got one very young quarterback, and you've got a new quarterback who didn't necessarily light the world on fire last year, right? Like, highly touted quarterback, but like flawed coming in. So there's a ton of questions. We used to say in the news business, you know, when I did TV news, and it was always that was the worst TV news. But like, you know, we have more questions than answers this morning around this story. Like, we really do have more questions than answers around the Colorado quarterbacking situation. One, because, you know, Juju Lewis should probably still be in high school, and two, because Caden Salter, we just haven't seen him play at this level yet. And it's super exciting, but it's also interesting. A guy like Byron Leftwich can only help those young men navigate this space. And Byron Leftwich, too, was an absolute dog, like dog mentality. Why do you think Coach Prime was so hot after him? He has that same mindset. You know, there's a lot to be said for the changing of the way training camps are run in the NFL and in college football. And, you know, maybe it's not as like, you know, for good reason. It's not like the Junction Boys with like Bear Bryant back at Texas A&M when he was just like killing dudes. Yeah. But like, Coach Prime still runs a really tough camp. Like, they are hardcore at Colorado. It is not like a mutual admiration society that people like to think it is. Like, they get the best out of their players, you know, like no pressure, no diamonds. And they have that approach. And I think that Byron Leftwich, not only from a strategic and an analytical standpoint, helps the maturation of those quarterbacks in a brand new quarterback personnel situation for Colorado, but also he just lends great perspective to a team that and I think one of the things you told me this, and I've always thought this myself, you know, I love Deion Sanders because his delegation he's so skilled at that. Like, that's a dude who, honestly, man, and whatever this might upset people, but like, he's got that hardcore religion and faith in his life that's one of the reasons I think the dude is so comfortable in his own skin. Because he has such a powerful relationship with God, and it just kind of oozes off him in confidence that's like, no, you're in charge of that. You're in charge of that. Like, that's fine, dude. I'm Deion Sanders. Like, I don't need, you know what I mean? He doesn't need another, like, pat on the back. He just wants to kick ass. And I think that Leftwich hire is another example of him just trying to make his program as successful and high profile as he can.
Yeah, and I think Byron Leftwich also, and this is like the obvious answer, is I think he adds an element, one, to the quarterback development, but two, probably to the playbook, right? Pat Shurmur's going to have to recraft his playbook, and I think Byron Leftwich guiding or helping call plays with Tom Brady's last Super Bowl win, I think he probably knows a thing or two about calling plays. So I imagine that will also help the Buffs sort of ascend up the rankings, because they're going to be adjustments that they can make to the playbook. There's going to be adjustments that they can make to schematics. So that'll be really interesting. Also, I liked your point about Deion Sanders being comfortable in his own skin because, and I talked about this yesterday, there's coaches in college football, and I don't think people will realize this because not every coach is as available, we'll call Deion Sanders, because obviously he has the YouTube show and stuff like that. But there are coaches out there with egos who won't relinquish play calling duties. That's usually the sign of a coach whose ship is sinking, is when they are all of a sudden like, you know what, I'll give up play calling duties. That's when you know the ship is sinking, right? Because their ego has gotten them to the point of like, hey, I got here doing this, I should do this now. And Deion Sanders, I think he's okay with being extremely knowledgeable about football, but also relying on other people to help facilitate and elevate his program. So I expect Colorado to be a team that upsets a lot of teams. I had a hot take for you, Pete, and I wanted to see what your thoughts were. On their schedule right now, I believe there's about 3 or 4 teams that are ranked. I think Colorado upsets 2 of them. That would require a couple road wins possibly, or would require just stunning like an Arizona State, who's probably going to be.
Well, that's late. That's late. That's so late in the season, Kev. Honestly, I don't want to speak. Colorado could be favored in that game. We just don't know.
That's
We're
true.
so far away from that. So I like that. I like your thought process there.
Because I just think that everyone's kind of sleeping on them. It's like, okay, it felt like the way the national media is treating Colorado is like they reached their pinnacle last year, and then this year it's just like, okay, well, we'll see. And it's like, I think they could be really good. So we'll just have to wait and see, obviously, until football starts, which is in less than a month. The Buffs will be taking the field against Georgia Tech on August 29th. So excited for that. When we come back, we're going to talk about more of a serious note on Deion Sanders' battle with his cancer. First, a quick break. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and give me 5 stars wherever you listen to your podcast. So that way you could stay in tune with what's going on with the Buffs. Pete, I think this was probably the most jarring part of the Deion Sanders reveal. It came out late Sunday night on social media. He had written a will. And I think when you see that, and I think that also fueled the sort of retirement speculations, but it's something that's uncomfortable, right? It's something that shows that even our greatest athletes of all time, they are one day going to leave this earth. And for Deion Sanders to only be 57 and sort of having to plan that, talk to me about your thoughts when you saw that. And I know you said you had something to touch on.
Well, no, I just think, again, it speaks to the kind of guy that he is and the vulnerability of, Coach Prime. And I think that when you see, it's funny because it's not funny, but I guess it's interesting or dark, but even guys who I grew up watching in my like Ryan Sandberg, right? Like the former Cubs second baseman who was in the Hall of Fame. He dies at 65. It's crazy to think that these guys are human beings, but they are. We put them. Hulk Hogan, right? Just the fact that a guy like that would eventually expire is kind of mind-boggling to someone like me. The guy was just constantly the picture of health. But the reality is that it's not all unicorns and rainbows for any of us health-wise behind the scenes. And I think it goes back to our initial point about, the way that Deion Sanders handled himself at that press conference on Monday. How vulnerable, again, he was. That is a real man. That's what a real man looks like. And I think this will is from the same exact body of work, right? That's where it's generated from someone who has deep faith, is being honest with themselves, which is some of the hardest things that people have to do. And he's succeeding at life when life gets difficult. How are things going when they're not going well? And that's something that I think that once again, he is winning.
Yeah. And I think it's a real life experience that until you experience that, you don't really understand.
Kev, are you asking me if I have a will yet? I don't have a will yet.
I'm just saying. I mean,
not that old.
Feel free to put me in there. No,
no, my fiance will tell. I need to get one done though. It's true. We need to do this stuff, and it's the same thing that somebody like me. I'm in my mid 40s. You need to do that. Even Coach Prime saying you need to get checked for certain types of cancers. That's kind of stuff you need handle your business, dude. Go to the doctor, pay your bills, get a will. You know what I mean? Like, it's simple stuff, but a lot of us love to avoid that stuff because it's difficult. You know?
It is, yeah. It's awkward. It's difficult. Like, my parents are both in their 60s, and so they drafted one up. And then, like, they're like, okay, we need you to sign this. And that's like, okay, they're like, this feels aggressive. Like, you guys are both fine. And it's like, we are, but you never know what can happen. And so I thought it was interesting. I thought it was vulnerable. I thought it was amazing that someone who, I mean, he's an athlete. I think most of us envision Deion Sanders as an athlete. He was a dominant athlete at that. And so we kind of view him as a superhero, right? And when we look at superheroes, whether you can name a superhero, it doesn't matter. We view them as immortal, and it's never going to happen in human life, at least not in our lifetime, where we're immortal, right? That's just not how we were designed to be. And so seeing someone who we all idolize, treasured, valued as our hero, it's like, okay, if they're going through this, like, what does that mean for me? And so I think it's just a reminder, and I think you hit on it as well. Get checked, right? That's obviously the one thing. But two, make sure you have everything in order. Obviously, it's not a fun conversation to have, but it's also a difficult conversation to have if something were to happen. And then you say you have a lot of kids. Like, Deion Sanders has, I think, 5 kids. And they would have to have tough conversations about who gets what, right? That's sort of awkwardness that goes into that.
It's ugly, man.
It does.
When there's a lot of money, I mean, it gets real ugly. So
it does.
To hash it out is beyond important, and to have the strength to do it and to be public about it is beyond important too.
Yeah, and he even got emotional, and which, I mean, understandably. And I think showing, like, Deion Sanders, I think, earned a lot of points in the human aspect these past few days. It's like one, a reminder to get tested, because I do think us as men are like, nah, we're good. Like, it's just, no, my legs always hurt that way, or like I've always had that weird thing happen, or like a reminder that it's okay to be emotional or be in touch with our emotions, right? Because it's okay for men to be like, you know what, I am sad, or this hurt my feelings, or whatever, because that stuff happens. And then to show that, like, hey, even though I have cancer, or even though, like, I was facing death, like, it doesn't define me, and I'm still going to chase my dream and chase my passion. Like, I think Deion Sanders absolutely nailed it this past week, and really excited to see what he and the Buffaloes do this week, or this weekend, this season. Pete, I appreciate you hopping on. Maybe he's going to do something cool. Yeah, go for it.
So yesterday, Monday, I had you on the Pete Sousa Show, which you can watch on YouTube, right? All the clips are up there. It's every day live at 10 a.m. Central Time. But I mentioned this yesterday, and it really came off the top of my head. I kind of was like, should I have said that? But there's two things that men are so sheepish about, right? Mm-hmm. Erectile dysfunction and incontinence, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's Deion Sanders telling people, I'm my bathroom situation right now is a nightmare. Like, that is, like, groundbreaking in my opinion. Like, that's a guy who is, again, like, has that superhero side to him, but is showing us that human side. That's just beyond important. So again, he's just so resilient, and I hate to say it as a Deion Sanders fan, but it's kind of like, it kind of sticks it to people too, who, like, talk smack or whatever and have their opinions about why he does what he does. And it's not what they're saying. It's what we see. It's authentic, dude. It's special.
Yeah, I know. The people forgive a guy for using his platform to spread a good word, right? You know?
Right.
Like,
yeah, come on.
hate that, right? But that's how people are these days. But Pete, you're not one of those people. We appreciate you. We love you. Tell the people where they could find you and what you're working on this upcoming college football season.
Yeah, I mean, I just got ESPN. I got about 6-7 football games, college football games I'll be doing. Primarily, at least half of those will be Big 12. So maybe Colorado is so big time. I love how Coach Prime talked about that at media days. Like, they're like the only school in the country that was on either a mainstay linear network like ABC, like one of those Fox, Big Fox or CBS, or on ESPN, like every single game. That's Colorado for you. But so I'll be doing college football, a bunch of college football, obviously a ton of college basketball, but that's off in hoop season. And you can find me on Inside the 12. That is a great show. It airs in markets, Boulder, Denver, every week, every Friday. It's basically a preview of the games coming up on for that week for the Big 12. So it's an awesome show. And then the Pete Sousa Show every day at 10 o'clock Central, and you'll see me on ESPN. All good in the hood.
He's a busy man, but he always keeps us covered on all things Big 12. So, Pete, appreciate you hopping on. And you guys know I keep you guys covered on all things Colorado. So make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. And I will see you guys tomorrow.